traits, ego, and wanting to become the best yourself, not help others achieve greatness. Something that goes against traditional sports manga. In Blue Lock, players literally shame each other for providing assists, as if it's a bad thing, as they see this as a lack of ego and a lack of confidence, or even ability to defeat others on your own. When someone passes the ball to the other, it's as if the passer has submitted to the superiority of the receiver. But even like that, there are some duos in Blue Lock that are, without a doubt, insanely overpowered once they decide to actually work together. But did you ever try to rank these duos from weakest to strongest? Well, that's exactly what we'll be doing today! Number 15, Karasu and Otoya. You see, Karasu and Otoya's best moment of teamwork came during the legendary U20 match. In that game, the pressure was sky high, and every move mattered. At that stage, every decision on the pitch had weight, and Karasu naturally settled into the role of controlling the midfield. Karasu, as always, was the brain in midfield, reading the flow, analyzing weaknesses, and controlling space like it was second nature. What made him stand out was his ability to bait the U20 defense, drawing their attention with his feints and calculated ball control, only to redirect the play when the timing was perfect. That's exactly where Otoya came into the picture. Otoya, on the other hand, was positioned higher up, making use of his agility and quick bursts of speed. Otoya thrived on agility and quick movements, darting into the spaces that Karasu carved open. Karasu orchestrated an attack, pulling the strings so that Otoya and Chigiri could cut through the defense. And when it all came together, their coordination directly led to Blue Lock's second goal. It wasn't flashy individual brilliance, to be honest, but more of a blend of Karasu's tactical genius and Otoya's sharp execution that broke through the U20's wall. Their partnership worked so well because they complemented each other's strengths. Karasu was the cerebral playmaker, always dictating the tempo and finding gaps, while Otoya was the agile executor, slipping into those gaps and capitalizing on the chances created. That one sequence showed just how effective they could be when paired. Now, this was just the first one, and not only each duo becomes better than the next, I actually have the top 2 duos as, well, let's say you'll probably not agree with me, as for the time being, they suck at working together. But I'm sure this will change soon. But for that, you're gonna have to wait a little bit. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Number 14, Aiku and Ryu. Aiku and Ryu both joined the Italian Ubers during the Neo-Egoist League, and to say the very least, they nailed their defensive work together so well that they both received exceptional offers. Aiku received an offer for 60 million yen, while Ryu received an offer for 45 million yen. Together, they are leading Japan's U20 team in the World Cup. Aiku is the captain and sweeper. His trademark was reading the game several steps ahead. He had an exceptional ability to anticipate passes and position himself in the one spot that could cut off the opponent's flow. Ryu, on the other hand, brought sheer physical dominance. His weight, reach, and aerial control meant that anything coming high into the box was essentially his territory. The two complemented each other perfectly. Aiku wasn't the fastest or strongest player, but with his vision, he could direct Ryu on where to apply pressure. Ryu's job was to use his body to overwhelm attackers and neutralize them once Aiku guided the play into his zone. Aiku intercepted the patterns, while Ryu would handle the physical clash, blocking off lanes and winning duels. Their effectiveness wasn't really all about individual abilities, but rather about balancing each other and working together with chemistry. Aiku acted like the mind of the defense, and Ryu was the body. Together, they created a system where each covered the other's weaknesses. Aiku needed Ryu's physical presence, and Ryu relied on Aiku's judgment to always be in the right place. That's what made them one of the toughest defensive pairings in the entire U20 tournament. Number 13, Nagi and Ryo. Nagi and Ryo's partnership was one of the most natural and effective combinations in Blue Lock, especially in the first selection phases. Ryo acted as the architect of their plays, while Nagi was the finisher who turned imagination into reality. They were together since the start, and if there's a duo who genuinely appreciates and wishes the best for each other, it's this duo. They don't use their partner so that they gain something for themselves. They genuinely want to see the other succeed. Ryo had the technical vision to craft passes that most players wouldn't even attempt, threading balls into impossible angles. And Nagi had the raw talent to bring those passes under control instantly, no matter how difficult they were. To be more precise, Ryo is basically like a chameleon, using his all-rounder skills, excellent soccer abilities and sense, and his amazing stats across all his various skills. Ryo is able to emulate the abilities that other players have demonstrated. Ryo uses his nearly perfect skills to be able to understand how others, who are specialized in certain areas, are able to produce certain abilities. Using this understanding, he is able to recreate these abilities on his own. The only limitation of this ability is that Ryo can only copy skills and abilities that are within his physical capability and not natural physical talent, such as Hyoma Chigiri's insane speeds. The abilities he copies, however, are inferior to the original because his skills only reach about 99% and maximum efficiency and cannot match up to the originals when compared. For example, He copied Meguru's long passing, the gyro shot from Kenyu, the drive shot from Shidou, and the close-quarter dribble from Kurona. But that was just attack. In defense, he copied Aiku's total defense, Kazuma's physical pressure, and Nagi's trap shot. Nagi, on the other hand, has perfect ball control, an insane first touch, where he can control the ball no matter how it's thrown at him, and even more than that, dribble or fake dribble in seemingly impossible angles and movements. Plus, by entering the flow, he becomes even better. One of their standout moments came early in the first selection, when Ryo delivered a long, high pass that seemed impossible to control. Nagi killed it midair with a single touch, leaving everyone stunned, and scored right after. That sequence didn't just give their team a goal, it instantly raised their value in Blue Lock, proving that their chemistry was on a different level from the rest. Another clear example was during their match against Team V. The rest of the squad struggled to deal with the combination of Nagi's creativity and Ryo's service. Ryo kept feeding him passes, from through balls to chip lobs, and Nagi repeatedly turned them into goals or dangerous chances. Even when opponents tried doubling on Nagi, Ryo's awareness allowed him to adjust, either drawing defenders out with his dribbling or switching play to keep Nagi free. Their link-up play was so seamless that it almost looked rehearsed, though it really was just a natural connection between their styles. The reason we don't place them any higher is simply because, well, Nagi failed to impress during the later stages of the Neo-Egoist lead, which even caused his value to drop to 24th, thus being eliminated from Japan's 23-member squad for the U20 World Cup. Number 12, Isagi and Hiyori. Here, the main aspect of this partnership, and the reason it worked so well in practice, was Hiyori's perception of the game and his meta vision that synced perfectly with Isagi's. Actually, Isagi and Hiyori's connection became one of the most crucial partnerships in Blue Lock, especially in the later stages, where adaptability and vision mattered more than pure skill. Isagi's strength was always his ability to read the field and anticipate future plays, but Hiyori brought something unique that perfectly complemented it. His playmaking built on predicted coordination. Hiyori had the awareness to imagine what his teammate was about to do, and then adjust his own pass or movement to fit that image. One of their biggest moments came in the Neo-Egoist League, when Blue Lock faced Bastard Munchin's intense opponents. Isagi constantly sought to evolve beyond simply reacting to plays. He wanted to create them. That's where Hiyori stepped in. He wasn't just passing to Isagi, he was thinking with him. In one key sequence against Ubers, Hiyori's perfectly timed through ball unlocked Isagi's shooting lane, leading to a decisive finish. The moment highlighted how their shared vision could outsmart even the most disciplined defense. What made them so effective was how naturally their thought processes overlapped. Their chemistry worked because neither overshadowed the other. Isagi didn't treat Hiyori as just another passer, and Hiyori didn't hesitate to trust Isagi's decisions, even when they seemed risky. This partnership was crucial in Hiyori not only receiving offers, when before that he didn't even get playing time, but also make it in the Blue Lock 23, and even start the game against Nigeria. Overall, Isagi was already among the top players in Neo-Egoist League, while Hiyori secured a 39 million yen offer. Number 11. Barou and Lorenzo. Barou and Lorenzo's teamwork is an unusual but highly effective one, built on different personalities and styles that somehow mesh together into results. Barou has always been the king type of player, selfish, forceful, and determined to bulldoze his way through defenses with his own strength. He has the ability to create the space for his own shots by charging through an opponent's defense and into a range for his middle shot. He boasts multiple attributes and techniques that contribute to his overall charging ability. He has insane physicality, a predator eye, a chop feint taken straight out of a movie CR7 does in real life, killer instincts for goal, and an ego that does not allow him to come second. Lorenzo, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. He plays for the team and sticks to the plan the coach assigns him on. What makes their connection interesting is that Lorenzo doesn't try to control Barou. Instead, he creates the perfect environment for Barou to thrive. Lorenzo has an unusual body structure. He has lower limbs similar to Agi and Ryu, in addition to long arms and a neck. This allows Lorenzo to receive pass ahead of his opponents. Lorenzo uses his arms in warding off opponents from stealing the ball, and yet that's not all. Lorenzo's dribbling style involves moving his upper and lower bodies in a way that makes them completely uncoordinated, making it extremely difficult to read his center of gravity. This technique allows Lorenzo to effortlessly dribble past his opponents by confusing them with his unconventional movements. In the Neo-Egoist League, when Barou was drafted into Italy's Ubers, his aggressive playstyle found the perfect partner in Lorenzo. Lorenzo's ability to lock down opponents' defenses defensively, and then recycle possession gave Barou the freedom to focus entirely on attacking. For example, whenever Isagi or Kaiser tried to build momentum against Ubers, Lorenzo would shut it down with his overwhelming defense, stealing the ball cleanly and instantly looking to feed it forward. Barou, always waiting for his chance to seize the spotlight, could then take those recoveries and turn them into chances. This partnership was what originally made Barou the highest valued player in Blue Lock, with a value of 100 million yen, and ultimately made him worth 150 million yen. Number 10. Isagi and Bachira. You see, Isagi and Bachira's partnership was one of the very first duos that really defined Blue Lock. From the early selections, the two fed off each other's playstyles in a way that was both natural and explosive. Bachira had this unpredictable, almost playful way of dribbling past defenders, guided by his instinct and love for the game. Isagi, on the other hand, thrived on reading situations and positioning himself in the one spot where a decisive finish could be made. Put the two together, and you had chaos being turned into order. A perfect example came during the first selection with Team Z. Bachira's dribbling constantly drew defenders out of position, creating cracks in the defensive line. Isagi would watch those movements, calculate where the open space was going to appear, and then strike with clinical timing. Their first real highlight was the goal Isagi scored after Bachira's pass in the match against Team X, the moment that sparked Isagi's realization of his own weapon and solidified their bond. That single play didn't just give them a goal, it gave Team Z belief that they could stand against stronger opponents. Later, during the second selection, their chemistry was even more obvious. When Isagi and Nagi faced Rin's team, Bachira's dribbling acted as the unpredictable factor that even Rin couldn't fully control. Isagi relied on Bachira's creativity to break rigid defensive systems, while Bachira trusted Isagi's sense of positioning to make his solo runs matter in the end. The more they played together, the clearer it became. Isagi gave structure to Bachira's chaos, and Bachira gave freedom to Isagi's structure. Bachira always looked for Isagi, confident that his passes wouldn't go to waste. Isagi, in turn, knew that Bachira's improvisation wasn't random, and all he had to do was read it. Even after Bachira joined Barca and Isagi at Bastard Munchen, they still saw each other and talked in a friendly way, something that, well, Isagi does not really tend to do with his opponents. I mean, the guy has no chill on things like that. He calls people donkeys left and right, he calls them failures. When he plays, bro stands on business, and yet he never said anything like that to Bachira, which says a lot. The reason this duo was not placed higher is because their partnership was shown very early in the anime, and thus at a point where neither of them was even close to the level they currently are. When they start working together again in future matches, this ranking might have to change. Number 9, Kaiser and Ness. Okay, now we start getting serious. Kaiser and Ness are a duo built on hierarchy, not equality, yet their effectiveness can't be denied. Kaiser stands as the genius striker of Bastard Munchen, while Ness plays the role of the loyal enabler who bends his entire game around Kaiser's success. It's a partnership that on the surface looks one-sided, but the results prove how well their dynamic functions in practice. Kaiser's traits are clear: creativity, unpredictability, and a ruthless killer instinct when it comes to finishing. Combined with his Kaiser impact, it's not random that Kaiser received an offer from Real Madrid. He thrives on bending defenders with his curved Kaiser impact shots and manipulating defenders into giving him just enough space to strike. Ness, on the other hand, doesn't try to compete with that brilliance. He supports it. His strength lies in his precise passing, fluid link-ups, and almost obsessive loyalty to Kaiser. Every time Kaiser moves, Ness is already thinking about how to supply him with the perfect ball. One of their clearest moments came during the Neo-Egoist League matches, when Ness repeatedly set up Kaiser's signature attacks against opponents like Menshine City and Ubers. The way they work together reflects efficiency through trust. Kaiser demands the ball in the exact spot he wants it, and Ness ensures he receives it. Ness's unselfishness cancels out Kaiser's ego, turning what could be a clash into a functioning strike force. After all, the reason Bastard Munchen signed Ness was exactly because, in the trials, Ness was just passing the ball to Kaiser, and Kaiser kept on scoring. He scored 3 goals, which in turn gave Ness 3 assists. Kaiser knew that he found the perfect puppet that would help him achieve greatness. That is, until, well, Isagi ruined their plans. But more of that in a little bit. Number 8, Isagi and Kaiser. And why do we place this duo higher than Kaiser and Ness? Well, not only is Isagi a better player than Ness, it was also revealed that Noah found exactly what he was looking for in the face of Isagi. Not because he believed Isagi could challenge him, but because he believed Isagi could make Kaiser a better player. Good enough so that it would finally make him good enough, and thus give him a good challenge. In other words, no one knew that the partnership of Isagi and Kaiser would turn to be so great that it would eventually benefit himself. Isagi and Kaiser aren't teammates in the traditional sense. They're rivals forced to share the same team. Yet that rivalry itself creates a strange form of synergy. Both are strikers with the ambition to dominate the field. Both see the game several steps ahead, and both refuse to accept being second best. On the surface, this clash looks destructive, but in reality, it's the very thing that pushes them to new heights. And by the end of the Neo Egoist League, instead of trying to destroy each other, they decided to play as a team and see who can actually score for themselves. Instead of stealing the ball from each other, they decided that may the best scorer win. You see, originally, since Kaiser was already the established ace of the team, with Ness at his side, dictating the attack and scoring at will was normal. Isagi, meanwhile, was climbing, learning, and evolving. Whenever Kaiser tried to impose himself, Isagi read his movements, anticipated his shots, and sometimes even intercepted his spotlight. For example, in the match against Ubers, Isagi's constant analysis of Kaiser's curved shooting style allowed him to reposition in ways that even Kaiser hadn't accounted for. The result was not only Isagi stealing key moments, but also raising his own value in comparison to Kaiser. This drove Kaiser mad, and I mean really mad, which pleased Noah that knew this is what Kaiser needed to step up. Kaiser relied on flair, unpredictability, and his technical brilliance to bend defenses, while Isagi leaned on logic, metavision, and the ability to adapt mid-match. When the two converged on the same play, the defense was forced to split attention, creating opportunities for Bastard Munchen whether or not they directly cooperated. In fact, part of their effectiveness lies in how much they don't want to cooperate. The rivalry forces each to evolve, meaning every play becomes sharper, every run more dangerous. Their achievements as a pair aren't so much about assists and shared goals, like Nagi and Ryo or Isagi and Bachira. Instead, it's about pressure. Together, they create a two-headed threat that destabilizes opponents. When one fails, the other is ready to strike, and that constant danger makes Bastard Munchen's front line one of the hardest to contain. Number 7. Chris Prince and Hyoma Chigiri. You see, Chris Prince and Chigiri formed one of the most eye-catching partnerships in the Neo Egoist League. Chris was a star known for his polished technique, professional discipline, and ability to draw the maximum potential out of those around him. He was the one who formulated Chigiri's training plans to help him develop tremendously. He turned him from just a speedster, not knowing how to utilize his speed, to become actually dangerous, to really using certain moves as basically guaranteed goals if certain conditions are met. What made their duo so effective was the way Chris tailored his mentorship to Chigiri's strengths. He taught him how to use his speed in a more calculated way. Chris showed him how to time runs, control stamina, and position himself so that his pace didn't just create spectacle, but consistently produced value. That guidance immediately made Chigiri sharper as an attacker. When receiving the ball in a certain position, things were about to go down. A standout example came in the match against Bastard Munchen. With Chris's influence, Chigiri began combining his speed with better timing and awareness, allowing him to break past defenders more efficiently. He wasn't just sprinting wildly anymore, he was sprinting at the right moments, cutting in behind the defensive line, and turning his runs into actual scoring chances. The shift in his playstyle was clear evidence of how well Chris's teachings translated on the pitch. Chris brought experience, professionalism, and technical refinement, while Chigiri contributed raw speed, determination, and adaptability. Together, they achieved an upgraded version of Chigiri's game, one where his biggest weapon became not just dangerous, but sustainable over the course of a high-level match. Number 6. Lavinho and Bachira. You see, Lavinho has immense mastery with the ball, managing to dribble it from any position with creative and fluid dribbles. His dribbling skill is so high that when opponents try to block him, they end up falling to the ground for not following his dance with the ball, managing to easily advance to the goal without losing the ball. And well, let's just say that when you put this guy together with Bachira, who is also known as a dribbler, maybe one a bit more composed, I would say, and not so much of a chaotic type, then the two of them together are bound to wreak havoc. Lavinho and Bachira's partnership was one of the most entertaining combinations to come out of the Neo Egoist League. Lavinho, the Brazilian superstar, was all about making football feel like art. His movements were unpredictable, his dribbling stylish, and his confidence contagious. Bachira, meanwhile, was the perfect student for him, someone who already thrived on instinct, creativity, and freedom on the ball, but who needed the final push to refine his play against the world's best. From the start, Lavinho encouraged Bachira to lean into his individuality. He didn't want Bachira to just play passes or follow patterns. He wanted him to embrace the joy of dribbling, the creativity of taking on defenders, and the beauty of carving his own path. That philosophy resonated deeply with Bachira, who always loved the thrill of breaking past opponents one-on-one. Under Lavinho's guidance, Bachira's dribbling became more deceptive, more controlled, and more confident. A key moment came in Menshine City's matches, where Bachira showcased this new dimension of his game. Instead of relying only only on wild improvisation. He began stringing together combinations of flair and precision, beating defenders not just with instinct, but with deliberate skill. Lavinho's mentorship gave him the confidence to see himself as an entertainer and an ace, not just a sidekick. That change helped Bachira transform from the playful monster chaser he once was into a more independent, dangerous player who could decide games on his own. 10 down, 5 more to go. And boy, I cannot wait to speak about the last two. Number 5, Snuffy and Barou. This one was among my favorites, to be honest, especially given the backstory of Snuffy and for how well he was written. You see, Snuffy used to be at the top, along with his best friend, Mick Moon. However, their chaotic lifestyle led to their downfall, which in turn led his friend into depression and eventually into taking their own life, something which made Snuffy change his entire perspective. His goal was to shape a striker to succeed him, while also teaching him that if there's ever a time where they fall from their throne, at the end of the day, as a person, they're much more than that. Football, at the end of the day, is just a job, and if they ever fail, their life still has meaning. And well, they managed to pass that philosophy to all the Uber players. That's why the team was so well organized, orchestrated, and followed the system of their coach perfectly. But then Barou came and destroyed that philosophy completely. He used this system to get on top, but when the system started crumbling, he was the one who consumed that system whole and used his mentality of wanting to be the king to keep going forward and scoring goals. Overall, Snuffy and Barou's partnership in Italy's Ubers was a turning point, not just for the team, but for Barou himself as a player. Snuffy wasn't just a coach on the field. He was a mentor who rebuilt Barou's mindset from the ground up. Where Barou had always been selfish, seeing himself as the king who refused to bend to anyone, Snuffy introduced him to the philosophy of being the hero, someone who uses his power not only for himself, but for the good of the team. That shift unlocked an entirely new dimension to Barou's game. Snuffy's traits were discipline, vision, and an almost fatherly guidance. He knew how to take a diamond in the rough and polish it without breaking its natural shine. Barou, meanwhile, had that raw strength, stamina, and that relentless drive to dominate opponents. At first, the two clashed. Barou hated the idea of changing his ego-driven style, but Snuffy's persistence slowly wore him down, showing him that evolving didn't mean losing his identity. The clearest example of their partnership came in the Neo-Egoist League match against Bastard Munchen. Snuffy helped Barou remodel himself into a joker for the Uber system, not the predictable solo striker anymore, but someone who could surprise defenses by adapting his movements, pressing intelligently, and even playing unselfishly when the situation demanded it. Barou scored by slipping into spaces that no one expected him to use, proving that he wasn't limited to one style anymore. That evolution was Snuffy's influence in action, and in turn, when Barou snapped and showed his resolve too, that caused Snuffy to reconsider his approach and accept this chaotic nature of Barou, being part of the team, but when the situation needs it, Barou acting as a sole striker that can shoulder the weight of the attack on his own. Number 4, Loki and Charles. Even though we did not see a lot of them in the manga, at least not so much at the time this video's recorded, we did see the individual skills each of them have. Loki's considered one of the best strikers in the world, being handpicked by Ego to play as one of the world's select. Despite only being 17, he's already a rising star and is considered a prodigy in the world of football, having been selected for France's national team already and playing professional level football in the French league. His skill was demonstrated in the 3rd selection, where he was able to easily bypass the first clear team's defense, scoring on Team Blue Lock with little effort. Loki's speed is his defining weapon, being able to explosively take off from a neutral position and reach top speed very quickly. I think for anyone watching real-life football, then yeah, you do understand this player is basically Kylian Mbappe. Charles, on the other hand, being just 15 years old, is one of the hottest prodigies in the world of football right now. So much so that Loki's entire plans being wanted to stimulate him enough and polish him into a midfielder who will end up helping Loki become the best player in the world. Charles is capable of making high-speed, precise passes that most players are unable to reach. By knowing the virtues and tendencies of his teammates, he's able to adjust to a point where it seems impossible to reach the ball, which only top-level players like Shidou would reach. Plus, being able to use metavision at such an age, this shows how much potential this kid has, as this ability is considered one of the most overpowered ones in the world of Blue Lock. It's a term used to describe a player's evolved vision that gives him an omnipotent perspective of the field. Using his eyes to constantly capture information from his central and peripheral vision, Charles constantly collects data about every player, every play they make, and their positions on the field. Again, for anyone watching real-life football, a prime example of such an ability is Xavi from Barcelona. The amount of times this player checked his shoulder while scanning the game was phenomenal. He knew at every second of the game where every teammate and every opponent was. I even read an interview once where he stated that his teammates were jokingly calling him Annabelle because of the amount of time he twists his neck to scan the environment. But back to Blue Lock now. You see, despite their young age, Loki and Charles made up the creative heartbeat of France's Paris X-Gen, one of the best teams in the world, and their partnership stood out as one of the most technically refined duos in the Neo-Egoist League. Loki, even as a world-class superstar, didn't hog the spotlight. Instead, he played as both a mentor and a conductor, shaping the tempo of Paris X-Gen's attack. Charles, on the other hand, was his maestro, a midfielder with vision, precision, and the ability to supply the exact kind of passes that could unlock a defense in an instant. Loki's speed and ability to slip behind defensive lines meant he only needed half a second of freedom, and Charles was consistently the one who provided it. Their partnership worked so well because both knew their roles perfectly. Charles thrived as the creator, Loki thrived as the finisher, and the trust between them meant every attempt felt like a goal waiting to happen. As a duo, they were elegance and efficiency rolled into one. Number 3, Noel Noah and Isagi Yoichi. Okay, Noel Noah and Isagi may not have had the longest partnership on the pitch, but the impact of their connection in Bastard Munchen was massive. Noah, the world's best striker, carried an aura that demanded attention, and for Isagi, playing underneath him was both a challenge and an opportunity. Unlike the more mentor-like approaches of Snuffy or Lavinho, Noah wasn't there to nurture. His role was to set the absolute highest standard and force Isagi to prove whether he could rise to that level, not because he cared about him, but because he wanted to push Kaiser that would then give him a challenge. The clearest example of their link came in Bastard Munchen's Neo-Egoist League matches. When Isagi positioned himself correctly using his metavision, Noah acknowledged it. He gave Isagi the ball in decisive moments, treating him not like a rookie, but like a striker worthy of responsibility. That single act of trust elevated Isagi's status on the team, because if the world's #1 saw value in him, then everyone else had to respect it. What made them work was the contrast in scale. Noah's traits were world-class: physical dominance, refined technique, and absolute confidence. Isagi's were still developing, centered around vision, adaptability, and sharp decision-making, but when they overlapped, the result was frightening. Noah's presence pulled defenders and attention to him, while Isagi slipped into the space that was left behind, finding opportunities that most players wouldn't even see. In those rare sequences where they connected, Bastard Munchen's attack looked unstoppable. Noah set the bar, and Isagi was willing to claw his way up to it. Noah tested him, and Isagi proved himself. And now, for the moment I've been waiting for, the top 2 spots in our list. Number 2, Isagi and Rin. And okay, before you come at me, no. At present, not only is Rin not better than Noah, obviously, they also fight all the time and refuse to work together at all. So why would I put them this high in the list? Because the two of them have everything it takes to work together and lead Japan's attack to a World Cup victory. And let's just say, it doesn't get any better than that. For the time being, it's not an exaggeration to say that Rin could literally kill Isagi if he had the chance. I mean, that's how much he hates him. Isagi and Rin's relationship has always been framed as a rivalry, but it's the kind of rivalry that hints at an almost frightening potential if they were ever to fully cooperate. Right now, they clash more than they connect. Rin thrives on precision, control, and ruthless execution, while Isagi is constantly evolving his vision, learning to shape the game as a whole, rather than just finish it. Both want to be the leader, both want to dictate the match, and that constant fight keeps them from working smoothly side by side. Their battles in the second selection, and especially during the U20 match, showed exactly how sharp their individual weapons are when pointed at each other. Rin could dismantle entire defenses with his cold efficiency, while Isagi adapted on the fly, reading Rin's patterns and gradually closing the gap between them. Even in those moments of conflict, though, you could see flashes of what a combined vision of them would look like. When Isagi intercepted Rin's vision or mirrored his movements, it wasn't just competition, it was proof that their playstyles actually align on a higher level. When the two of them reach their full prime, and of course, decide to work together on the field, well, let's just say that they will truly be unstoppable together. I actually have a feeling that Rin might even drop lower in the pitch, maybe even become a midfielder like his brother. Of course, this may not happen, and Rin might remain as a striker, but I do think his traits are better suited for a box-to-box midfielder, or maybe even a number 10 player, aka attacking midfielder. In that way, Rin and Isagi might stop competing so much about goals, and Rin might start feeding Isagi's visions more effectively so that they, in turn, can become an unstoppable duo on the pitch. After all, the traits they bring would make them devastating if unified. Rin has one of the sharpest shooting ranges and positional instincts in blue lock, able to punish defenders the second they make a mistake. Isagi complements that with metavision and a knack for directing the flow of the attack, finding spaces that others overlook. If Rin's precision was ever paired deliberately with Isagi's orchestration, they could create a strike partnership that overwhelms opponents from every angle. And sooner or later, I'm sure this will indeed happen. And for number 1 now, the moment you've been waiting for, the duo that in my opinion will be the best in the world of Blue Lock. Number 1, the Itoshi siblings duo, Sei and Rin. Sei and Rin's partnership is built on blood, talent, and conflict. As brothers, their connection is undeniable. They share instincts, technique, and an almost telepathic understanding of football. But just as much as they share, they clash. Sei grew up as a prodigy, chasing the dream of conquering European football, while Rin was left in Japan, constantly in his shadow. That difference in their journeys created tension, but it also shaped the way they play when they're on the same pitch. At the time this video is being recorded, Japan U20 has yet to qualify for the knockout stage, where Sei will join if that happens. When that chapter's finally released, well, Rin and Sei will inevitably play in the same team, and thus have to work together. But I'm not talking about that stage, as the two of them being the best duo in the world. This will happen when both of them put behind this rivalry of theirs and start working together. Being siblings, their link-up will be impeccable. Their traits align perfectly. Sei's vision and passing range create the stage, and Rin's accuracy and composure finish the play. Plus, as we already mentioned, Rin has a chance to change his position as Blue Lock manga continues to evolve. When that happens, just imagine how overpowered the Itoshi midfield duo will be. Two brothers, both wanting to become the best, both having an amazing talent, elite mentality, and working hard to achieve their goals. And them playing together in the midfield would mean bringing to the team the perfect synergy, balance, and abilities the team needs to make the difference. Even if Rin remains as a striker, just imagine the hype when Sei sets up his brother so that Rin can score in the World Cup final. Sei providing and Rin finishing. This duo, one way or another, is bound to become one of the best, if not the best, duos in the world. Click on this video next, where I'm ranking as well as explaining all 15 kaiju